A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Every culture has its distinction. Islamic culture can be known very easily if you walk into a palace, walk into a masjid, walk into a shop, or even meet a person or start an activity. The moment a person starts activity, first thing one pronounces is Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And you will find that quite often in the front face of a building or on the first page of a book, or whenever some activity is being taken place, like inauguration of a program, like ribbon cutting ceremony of a conference, the word Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim simply means in the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most mercy giving or beneficent. In both Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim, the common word is Rahmah, which is the root word. And Rahmah means blessing, kindness, concern, care, looking towards people with a desire to disregard and forgive them, or give them all kinds of benefits and blessings. One single word, but it tells us about a culture. Whenever a Muslim or a Muslimah, a child, an adult person, an aged person is doing something, say for example in a cafeteria, picking up a glass of milk to sip, or taking a glass of juice and drink, or looking into a fruit basket and picking up first piece of grapes, putting in his mouth to eat, the first word that you will listen and hear is Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Why Muslims do this? Very simple. If we look into the Quran, this short sentence or short ayah appears around 114 times. 113 times in the beginning of every surah. Only one surah, Surah At-Tawbah, does not begin with that. While in other surah, it comes in the middle, in Surah An-Naml. The meaning appear very simple, but speak for volumes. First and foremost, when someone says in the name of Allah, it's a declaration that I believe in the creator of mankind, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has made this world for us, who has made human beings, who has made beautiful climates, who has given us natural beauty, who has blessed us with health, with vision, with audition, with a desire to act in society and do many good things. Therefore, when a Muslim starts any kind of activity, this activity must be related with his faith or his belief. Consequently, when we say Bismillah in the name of Allah, then we are trying to relate our faith with that activity. Having said that, in the name of Allah as first statement, it's followed by Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, two words. Both represent an exaggerated form of Rahm, a superlative degree of Allah's kindness, love and blessing. Therefore, Rahmah means Allah's blessing and favor, and in the name of Allah, who is Ar-Rahman, means whose mercy and love and kindness is boundless, which overflows, which cannot be captured, understood, confined. And same Ar-Rahim, who is always kind to his people. Islam essentially is a matter of Allah's kindness, forgiveness and love for mankind. Therefore, this very short ayah appears in so many places in the Quran, as I said, in the beginning of every single surah. One thing that comes to mind is when we are starting reciting Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah Al-Imran, Surah Nisa, or any surah, one seeks not only Allah's protection from any satanic desires, so we say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem, but we also say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim to reconfirm our faith that we are looking in this Quran, reading this Quran, reciting this Quran, finding from it guidance just for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who out of His boundless blessing and kindness has sent this guidance to us. Therefore, each time a surah begins, the gift of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the form of that surah begins with an recognition and appreciation that Allah, who is Rahman and Rahim, has sent this surah or this chapter for our guidance, and that creates humbleness, thankfulness in the behavior of the one who wants to seek guidance. Consequently, the moment we say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, immediately our mindset changes. We start feeling Allah's favor on us, and therefore we begin Quranic recitation or reading with this short surah or ayah, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This culture of Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is fully reflected even in the very first revelation. Therefore, the revelation began with Iqra Bismi Rabbikal Lazi. Recite in the name of Allah, with the name of Allah. The culture of reading, the culture of recitation, which was embedded in that first revelation, is followed immediately by the mannerism, how we approach knowledge, how we approach guidance. Therefore, it says, Iqra Bismi Rabbikal Lazi Khalaq. Read in the name of Allah who has created you. The Quran, throughout every single surah, keeps us reminding that this guidance is a result of Allah's love and compassion for His creations. Therefore, the word in the name of Allah reminds us of Allah's favor, and it is with that name we begin our journey and reading. Journey into knowledge cannot begin without it. Therefore, Surah Al-Alaq tells us when you want to read or recite, then it has to be done with the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This further tells us that knowledge and ultimate knowledge can come only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in whose name we start search for knowledge. He guides, He provides, He helps, and therefore as seeker of knowledge, we must correct our direction by saying we are beginning journey into knowledge with your name. Therefore, help us, guide us, protect us, and allow us to reach our ultimate target of knowing what is truth, what is right, what is relevant for us, and how we can make our life meaningful in this world and life hereafter. In Surah Hud, the same ayah appears in a different context. There, the Quran talks about the Noah's Ark or the boat of Sayyidina Nuh. Sayyidina Nuh was asked to prepare a boat, build a boat in a place where there was no ocean and no river. Definitely, people around must laugh at him, mock at him, and ask him, what is wrong with you? You are not at the bank of a river or ocean. Why are you doing it? But he knew very well that after so many years of inviting people to Islam, there was no response. And consequently, Allah wanted to punish them by a unique way, a flood that will cover whole of earth. And only those who will be saved will be those who take refuge in the boat of Sayyidina Nuh. Surah Al-Hud, we find that when water starts raising its level and ultimately it lifts the boat, and Sayyidina Nuh and his followers who were Muslims enter the boat, then the first flight of the boat begins with Bismillahi majriha wa mursaha. Again the word Bismillah. That when you embark your journey, whether in ocean, in a plane in air, on a train, in a car, on a motorbike, wherever one embarks his journey, this is to be said, in the name of Allah we want to start it. Obviously, when tides are coming from all sides, when boat is floating and being chopped by huge waves, then the only protector is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in whose name this journey starts, in whose name the journey ends. And therefore, mankind discovers how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can save those who serve Him, submit to Him, and how He can destroy a whole population on earth which was denying, rejecting the message of peace, love and compassion Sayyidina Nuh preached for many years, the message of Islam. Because the Quran tells us Sayyidina Nuh was a Muslim. He called all people to accept Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as one and only creator and asked them to submit to His command, to His directions, and become true servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is not just a word, it's a culture, it's a mindset. It refers to an attitude of seeking Allah's help, thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His blessings, and all the time trying to remind ourselves that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all mercy, all kindness, all goodness. It's wrong to think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will punish people unnecessarily. It's wrong to think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will destroy people unnecessarily. It's only people themselves who destroy themselves by their evil deeds. It's people themselves who make themselves eligible for punishment, while Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always looking towards His creations with a vision of mercy, with a desire to forgive them, with a desire to find out one single excuse by which He could forgive them and disregard their errors. That's why the word Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is full of these two attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He is ar-Rahman, He is ar-Rahim, He is Rabb, He is Lord of universe, Lord of mankind, and therefore everything has to start with His name. The Quran in Surah Al-An'am tells us that do not eat anything on which name of Allah has not been pronounced. The ayah is very simple and with very obvious meaning. Sometimes people think that apparent meaning is that when you want to start eating fruit, meat, a piece of bread, then just say Bismillah and eat it. It has much wider implications. It refers to even when we slaughter our animals, then name of Allah is to be taken on them. Therefore, we eat only from those animals on which name of Allah has been pronounced. May that be a chicken, may that be a cow, may that be a goat or a lamb, may that be a deer or any other animal which people go and hunt. If we go further into the Quran tells us that when you are having your trained hunters, a falcon, a dog trained for that purpose, then when you let them go, at that point pronounce name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we think deeply into meaning of this ayah, suppose I am in a forest trying to do some hunting to make a good meal for myself, and I ask my falcon to run and catch a bird, and I say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and then falcon catches the bird, but when he brings me the bird is already dead. The Quran says you eat from it, because when you are shooting your falcon, you have said Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And same to a trained dog who is going after an animal to catch and bring back to me. When I have said Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim before the animal is hit, then it is halal for me. Which means that Bismillah precedes before slaughtering an animal, killing an animal, and not just after. Therefore, within the Quran, it becomes very clear that not only normal eating, when a slaughtered animal in the name of Allah is cooked and brought, but even when you want to kill an animal, and we cannot do it with our hand, but if we use it, and use an instrument like a dog or any other thing like a gun, when you use a gun and you want to shoot and we say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, then the bullet that hits is no different than slaughtering, and the animal when it is killed is halal for us. This indicates from within the Quran, it's not a matter of just going to marketplace and getting any kind of meat and say when we bring and cook and then say Bismillah, it becomes halal for us. I don't want to get into controversy about what halal and what is haram, but all I want to say is, if we look into the Quran, the word Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Allah's name, to be pronounced precedes every other thing. And therefore, whether we are eating, whether we are hunting, whether we are traveling, whether we are boarding a plane or a car or a bike or a bus, or whether we are changing our dress and putting a new dress. When we put a new dress, again we say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. When we wear a new watch, we say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. When we go and put our first foot in a boat, we say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. All this culture reminds a person of three things. First, pray to Allah in His name, so He protects you. Second, invoke and ask Him to help you, because He alone can help you. Third, never feel despair, never surrender to surroundings, but always be optimistic, because He is Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. He is always caring, always loving, always forgiving, and therefore you have someone to bank on. You have someone to call upon. You have someone to get support. You have someone who is always keen for your security and welfare. With that kind of confidence, when a person, a child, an adult, a lady, a girl, whoever says Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, then it brings all blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that act itself. At the same time, it also works as a deterrence. Naturally, a person who is a habitual pickpocketer will not pick up pocket of a person by saying Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, I do pickpocketing. Nor a person who cheats people will tell someone, listen, this is something very good for you with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, while the thing is bad for the person. Nor a person who is trying to fight with a person will say, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, I want to punch you in your face. That means Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim allows a person to excel in good deeds and do good deeds. But whenever something bad is being done or comes to our mind, it works as deterrence. It reminds us we should not enter in that gray area which may lead us to committing a sin. Therefore, it works as filter and does not permit a person to indulge in sin in wrongdoing. At the same time, helps a person in doing good deeds, excelling in good deeds, and trying to be as kind and thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as possible. This beginning into Quranic meaning of this word, this beginning of the vastness of its meaning also tells us that Quran is one of those miraculous books where 2 or 3 words alone carry a world of meaning. Like this very short statement, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, can be further elaborated, but due to shortage of time, we have no way but to stop. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to discover new dimensions in the Quran and look into the meanings and their implications for our everyday life. The Quranic language and the Quranic statements are not only full of meaning, they are full of power, because it's Allah's kalam or speech. It's not a human word, it's not human utterance. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's words conveyed through Angel Jibreel to the Prophet, peace be upon him, and therefore every single word carries enormous power. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, some scholars tell us, has that power or ism azam, that name, great name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which when pronounced can bring unexpected results, like the sailing of the boat Sayyidina Nuh. Very unusual. People never thought in such a stormy situation this boat will sail and will be safe. But when the words were used, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, or sending of the letter by Sayyidina Sulaiman, when he sent letter to the queen of Saba or Sheba, then he began the letter by saying, this is from Sulaiman with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Now all this use of this word indicates that whether you are writing a diplomatic letter, whether you are starting a sea journey, whether you want to use it as a Ism Azam, great name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to cure someone. I know personally there are certain surgeons in this country who, when they do their surgery, they just use this word Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and they say that 99.9% surgeries have been successful. Sometimes they use this word without surgery, and just when it is pronounced and blown on the person, it cures. This is the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's speech. Therefore, not only Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, but several other Quranic words have that enormous power which can change a phenomena, which can improve a situation, like the word kun said by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One single word kun said by him, said by Sayyidina Isa, brings enormous results. Sayyidina Isa is asked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, make a bird from dust, then just say kun and you will find the bird flying. Now words are not just full of meaning, but they have also enormous power. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim in that sense is among those words, those terms, those ayat, those sentences which carry not only blessing for mankind, but also can cause cure for many things which can be discovered when one is fully devoted to the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and when fully understands the implication of this word. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.